All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. For the ones that do not know me, my name is Josh Whitlaw. I do work here at the Department of Education, here in the Office of Finance and Operation under the Division of District Support. In the back, we do have some of our team that's with us. Rhonda Devine, she is our branch manager. When you were signing in, you saw Sasha Reinhart. She is our Eastern Kentucky field staff. Becky Walsh is also in the back. We also have our Associate Commissioner with us, Matthew Ross. So if you have any questions for any of us, feel free to ask those questions at any time. Again, if you do need the Wi-Fi, make sure you sign on the Kentucky Guest. Use your email address that you have for the school, and then you have to create a password. Real fast, just to see where we kind of stand with everybody. If this is your first year as an attendance clerk or DPP, raise your hand. Very good. What about just DPPs? Michael? You're not first year. First year as a DPP. If you have not, I was like, you're getting ready to retire, buddy. If you have not talked to one of your field staff, please make sure you talk to your field staff today or to me or Rhonda so we can make sure that you are on the DPP list that we emailed every day or every time we send emails out. Again, this is very laid back training. So if you have questions at any time, feel free to stop, raise your hand, stop me if you don't understand something. Again, stop me. I will feel free to go through that again. If you did not get a PowerPoint, if you didn't print it out, we do have a couple of copies left in the back if you need that. So just raise your hand and Rhonda will get that to you if we need that. I think we're good to go. So here's our agenda for this morning, going through some campus community, KD documentations. Why do we take attendance? Looking at what we need to put in Infinite Campus before you even enter a student into Infinite Campus or before the first day of school. The process of taking attendance, using the tools and troubleshooting, monitoring your attendance, and we'll look at the Kentucky reports as well. So if you are new, just keep in mind Campus Community is free to all Kentucky State users. The only thing that you are required to have is just a Kentucky or at kyschools.us. That's all you're required to have. So you will then go, as you log into campus or your Infinite Campus, you will see the little Rubik's Cube, what we call the app switcher, and then you will see community. So once you click on community, it's going to ask you to create an account. So again, just make sure you're using your school email, create a password. You don't have to remember this password again because it's then going to link your accounts together at all times. So when you go back to campus community, it's automatically going to log you into the community. So once you're inside of Infinite Campus community, this is the look that you will see. I will say that these 6 things, they will change every time you log in, okay? Because as users are using it, it's putting the most popular stuff that people are clicking on that you will see. This release information, again, we take a release every month, but we are behind, a month behind. So what happens is, I think we're getting ready to take, well, actually in July, we don't take a release. Because of school starting, we don't want to take Infinite Campus down. So we will have 2 releases coming out in September. So, but you will see anytime you want to see the new release information, if that's to Kentucky specific, or if you want to see the core information, all that can be found in the release information there. You will see that the side here looks like the new Infinite Campus. So, or if you have something that you're wanting to look for, just click on knowledge base, type it in. So if you type in Kentucky, always make sure you type in Kentucky first and then what you're looking for. Because if you type in attendance, it's going to give you attendance as core product. If you don't know, in Kentucky, we do attendance very, very different than any other state in the U.S., okay? Because we do minute by minute, which turns into whole day, half day attendance. So we want to make sure that you're looking at whole day, half day attendance. You can see that it says Kentucky in parentheses. So you want to make sure that you're looking at, if you look at behavior, make sure you type in Kentucky behavior, okay? We'll talk about the whole day, half day here in just a few minutes. But there's the guidance document out on KDE website, or I'm sorry, on campus community. There it goes into absent minutes, enrolled days, your non-instructional time, and your tardies. That's how all the whole day, half day is calculated. So also inside of campus community, we have what we call Campus Passport. This is where you can sign up for trainings inside of Infinite Campus. If you're new, I do 100% recommend that you start doing some of these trainings online, okay? We have a Kentucky attendance out there. Yes, it's called Kentucky Attendance. It's kind of the same thing that I'm doing today, but they almost go into a little bit more of the weeds than I do. I'm doing high level today because, again, not every district does it the same. So we're just going to give you the requirements today that you have to have. Who is using the old look still in Infinite Campus? Good. Nobody raised your hand because it's not there anymore. It's gone. So just FYI, if you have not logged into your Infinite Campus in your district and you're still in the old look, you will not see the old look anymore. When we took the release a couple weeks ago, they wiped that out from all Kentucky users, okay? So we only have what we call the new look in Infinite Campus only. If you are new, you will know no different than what you log into every day. Just a couple things. Who doesn't like the new look, I should say. I will say that Infinite Campus people are not here, so I can say this, even though I'm on the board. I did not like the new look at all. I was 100% against it, did not want to change to it, but I will say that now that I'm in it, I'd rather have the new look than the old look because it is easier to use, I promise. Even though it's hard right now because you're being forced to switch to it, but the new look is much easier to me. Everything's in one location, so if you just work in the attendance world, you're in one section of Infinite Campus at all times. You don't have to go back and switch, toggle to every little thing on the side. You have to click the caret, go down. It's all going to be in the attendance office now. But again, if you do not know how to navigate through the new look, there is a little tool. When you go into the search button at the top, you'll see this type. Usually it's where it says student. If you will drop that down and click on tool, and then you know what it's called in the old look, you can type it in and it's going to bring it up automatically for you. Okay. That was also in the old look. A lot of districts did not know that you can click on tool and type what you're looking for, but it's also in the new look. Keep in mind, in the old look, you had to type in the last name under student, or you had to go to, if you were doing SSIDs, you had to click on student ID number. In the new look, you just say under student, you can type in the last name of the student or the SSID number, okay? You no longer have to toggle between student and student number, okay? Who uses the favorites? Who doesn't know about favorites? Go ahead and raise your hands if you don't know it. Favorites is going to be your best friend, okay? So if you are an attendance clerk, you can go in and you will see, I don't know if I have a screenshot of it, I don't. So like we go in and type in there where it says attendance code setup, or we click on attendance there, that second line there. You can go through and at the very top of that, it's got a little star. So when you click on that star, it automatically puts it in your favorites under this star. So what I always recommend to attendance clerks, go through every single day, go in order of your favorites. So when you first come into the office, what are you looking for? You're going to be looking at classroom monitor to make sure everyone's taking attendance, correct? First period, within the first 5 minutes of the bell ringing, everyone has posted attendance, correct? Right. Believe me, I've been there. So, but again, you're going to look at classroom monitor. Put that one as your first star. Second one, you're going to go over to the attendance wizard. That's going to be your second one. Okay. Third one is when you start running your reports. Okay. So that's how you can set your favorites up. You can do them in order. If you put one in there and you say, oh, that needs to go last, click on it and just drag it to where you need it. You can move those inside of your favorites. I will say, this is one of my biggest gripes with Infinite Campus right now is creating folders inside of the favorites. I talked to Eric Gordy. He is working on that. So he no longer has to hear me fuss about it. But here at the department, we all kind of share one Infinite Campus here at the state level. So so if I go in and do calendar information, home hospital validation, that's going to be for every single user here at KDE. So I want to be able to go in and click on OFO, Office of Finance and Operation, EDS, District Support, Division of District Support, and then have my name, Josh Whitlow, and then all my favorites. Okay, that's how I want it to be set up for everyone in the state. So when you're in the office world, you can say, okay, this is for attendance only. And if you're in trouble, or if you're in the process for behavior, you can go in and type in behavior and have your behavior folder as well. So that's something that I've been working with Infinite Campus to get them to do. So hopefully we will see that with the next, hopefully by the end of the school year is what Eric has told me so far. Any questions about the new look? Again, please ask questions if you have them. That's what we're here for. That's why we have the field staff and Rhonda here as well. Yes, sir. So the search bar is that tool. So if you go to where it says type, so if you click on tool and then click on search, you'll just type in your information there. So when you click on tool, then you type in attendance codes, and then it's going to bring everything up about attendance. That's what this is. Click on tool and then type in then what you're looking for. That's how it's moved into the new look. Any other questions about the new look? All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is KDE documentation. Again, this is a very important part of your job. So we at KDE go through every single year during the summer. We've already started our process of working on all of our documentation to make sure it's updated. Probably last year, more likely, if you were still in the old look, you were a little confused because we had already changed all of our paths to the new look. We took all the old look stuff out because, again, we had to switch everything over here at the state level last year. So the first thing we're going to look at is CASES data standards. Who uses CASES data standards? If you are at the central office, as far as DPP or the Infinite Campus admin, you need to make sure that you are using your CASES data standards. That is what is required inside of Infinite Campus. It gives you step-by-step of how it needs to be entered inside of Infinite Campus that we require here at the state level. You can see, you can go, there's two different ways you can get to the CASES data standards. Again, our Kentucky Department of Education website, click in the search, you can click on data standards, or if you're looking for attendance, behavior, whatever, you can type that in, and more likely you're going to see CASES data standards as the first one. Second way to get there is in Infinite Campus itself. If you look at the very top, you will see where it says state announcements, and you will see CASES data standards. So if you click on that, it will automatically take you to this website here that is on the, it's going to be on your right-hand side. So if you look down through there, this is an old screenshot. I did not grab a new one. You will see that you see alternative education programs. It's got your ILPA, your KEXACs, out-of-district services, and then there's your attendance, your behavior, census. Make sure that you're looking at those because, again, we've changed a couple of things this year to the new look. So it's some new requirements that are in Infinite Campus that's being required now. Your enrollment, we have a lot of questions that come in. Hey, how do we enroll this student? Should they be a partial enrollment or should they be a primary enrollment? Which we'll get into that in just a little bit later. Again, that kind of changed this year. So we'll get to that into that in just a second. Any questions on CASES data standards? All right, so the next one we're going to look at is what we call in our office our work Bible, the pupil attendance manual. You will also hear we say PAM a lot. This is what we live by in our office. Rhonda is in the process now of updating it. We're working with our policy advisor in our office as well. making sure everything's good to go before we publish it. You will see there, again, I've already took a new screenshot, July 2025. We go through it every year in the beginning of the summer and update anything. I always recommend you all to print it out once we publish it. I always print it out in color. And the reason why we say color, anything that's going to be new for this school year is going to be in the color red. Okay. So that means it's new for this 25 or 25-26 school year. Again, it's going to be out on the website. Rhonda, once we have it published, Rhonda will then send an email out to all DPPs. So we'll have it there as well. Just a couple of table of contents that's inside of it. It is a very thick document. I think we're almost at 300 pages now, just because it's before I came to the department, we had a little bit of documentations everywhere. So when we came in, Rhonda and I kind of discussed and we kind of combined everything into one document. So you just have one document to keep track of. Some of the table of contents you see there is your calculations of a whole day, half day, your start status and end statuses, your suspension and expulsion codes, your transportation codes, your state attendance codes, SAR and growth factors in there, school calendars in there, and your records retention schedule. That's something that we did add to the PAM a couple years ago, just because we had so many districts call and say, how long do we have to keep something? I promise you, when you call us and ask us or email us, this is the first thing that we're going to, because we don't have them memorized yet. I got a lot of them, but not all of them. So I have this at my desk at all times with me. I didn't bring it because it's on my desk right now upstairs. All right, so here's your first question. Why do we take attendance? Anybody going to answer? It is required. Who said it? It is required. It also is how we fund you for your students, how the district is getting their funds. Seek fund is what it turns into. But KRS 161-200 says every single teacher in your district shall take attendance. Okay. Elementary, that's K through 5. They are required to take attendance first thing in the morning. That's all they're required from the state level. 10 districts require them to take period attendance. The answer is yes. Can the district require them to take morning attendance and then afternoon attendance after lunch? The answer is yes. That is all up to the district on how they want to set that up. Okay. Middle school and high school teachers, you are required to take attendance every single period. You, as the attendance clerk at the middle school and high school, you are required to make sure that attendance is being taken, usually with the first 5 minutes of that's our go-to, first 5 minutes of the bell ringing. Okay. Because again, we want to know who's in your classroom, who's not. That lets the office staff know, hey, we need to be looking for Josh Whitlow because he's not in our class. Okay. Again, that also determines the SEEK funding for the district. Again, once you central office level, you do your SAR. We do our reports here at KDE, and then what we say, we send it over the wall to the next office over, and they're the ones who take care of the SEEK side. What is Kentucky attendance? So Kentucky attendance is the state law and regulations governed by the tracking of attendance for variety purposes, including students' physical attendance, as well as the funding-based attendance. So when we say physical attendance, you will hear in our office, we say a lot of times your butts are in the seat. Okay. If that student's butt is in the seat, we're paying for that day. Okay. If they're not there, we're not paying you. Okay. That second part there where it says funding base, that's for your middle school and high school. That's virtual performance base. We will 100% give you funds for that course if they pass the course. But that is only grades 5 through 12. Okay. This past summer, we kind of ran into a couple of districts that had kindergarten through 4th grade in virtual performance base, which is a huge no-no. We caught it, and so we worked with that district. Luckily, they just had it in the system wrong. They had their check box wrong. So we were able to fix that real fast. They still had the attendance in there, so it was an easy fix for them. But again, make sure that you are looking at all that information. K through 4, you have to do attendance on those students. You can switch if you're doing those virtual, that's your blended learning groups. Okay, you are still required to do that and allowed to do that. The underlying foundation is the minute by minute attendance. That includes your check-in, check-out. So if a student checks out, funding stops automatically. Okay. And then the higher layer is the minute by minute, which then goes into the whole day, half day, which we will get to in a minute on that. We do track attendance 2 different ways in the state of Kentucky. Again, most of everyone is looking at the funding side because, again, that's what everybody's known for attendance. The second part is the truancy. So, again, you at the central office, DPP, if you're a principal, assistant principal, you're looking at that truancy side too because, again, once they hit that mark, you are required by law to take them to court. Okay? No ands, ifs, or buts. They did put that law into place, not this past year, but the year before, that you now have to take students no matter what to court. Okay. Yes.
Preference you all want us to.
Yes, we'll get to that in just a second. That's at the end. So now we're going to look at Infinite Campus behind the scenes. So if you are a attendance clerk, some of this you may not see, but we're going to cover it from A to Z just because districts are not the same throughout the state. So some attendance clerks may do all this, and then some you may not even see it until you start entering attendance inside of Infinite Campus. So the first thing we're going to look at is the state attendance codes. So keep in mind, if you have students that are qualified for some of these attendance codes, we're still going to pay you for that, for them being absent out of the building. Okay. So we're going to go through some of these to make sure you understand and how to use those, especially if you're new. Some of this is going to be repetitive from last year. But again, we say, we have new attendance clerks. They've never heard this spiel. So that's why some of you are looking at me like I've already heard this 5,000 times. That is why, because we do have new people. So the first two there, AFD and AFR, Armed Forces Day, and then Armed Forces Rest and Relaxation Day. We've kind of put this grid together for you so you will know how many days you are allowed to have for each attendance code. You do have to have paperwork saying, especially for the first one, Armed Forces Day, you get one of those, and that's when mom or dad is leaving or coming back from deployment. Okay, it's mom and dad only, or guardian. Okay, it cannot be brother, sister, grandpa, aunts, or uncles. It's only for the legal guardian of that student. The second one, the AFR, Armed Force and Relaxation Day, you are allowed to have up to 10 of those. Again, you're going to have paperwork. A lot of times the Armed Forces is going to send that paperwork home, and it actually says rest and relaxation on that. The student is allowed up to 10 of those days. Again, it's for mom and dad or legal guardian. Aunts and uncles, mom or brother and sister, grandpa, grandmother, that does not count for them. Okay. The next one there is ATA, Athletic Team Regional State Tournaments. You get up to 2 of those. Again, that has to be KHSAA sanctioned. Okay. The only way you can use those if it's a state or regional tournament. Okay. KHSAA sanctioned. You cannot just be for any kind of tournament. Class A does not fall underneath that. So it has to be KHSAA. You have a tournament that's going on for golf that's getting ready to start when school starts. If it's not regional or state, you cannot use that for ATA, okay? Next one there is your basic training. BT, you have up to 10 of those days. Again, that's going to be for students who are mostly in 12th grade. We had actually students that were able to use that this year because of the weather. Districts were pushed back. So we had a couple of districts to reach out to us and say, hey, Johnny is having to go to basic training. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to lose all this attendance on him. So actually we were able to give them, I think it was like 6 days. So that's how many days they had left of school before the student had to leave. But again, this is for basic training. They're actually leaving to go on basic training, not for tests. not for physicals, anything like that. It has to be actually the students leaving for basic training. Okay, we have a lot of that questions come in. The next one there is EHO. Who does not know what an EHO is? All right, so everybody knows what an EHO is and what paperwork you are required to have. Okay, KDE does have a sample of what we use. It's not required, but a lot of districts use it. You are to have a principal or principal designee to sign off on it, and it's dated. Remember, it has to be signed off and dated on or before the student leaves. Okay, if little Johnny comes in on August 10th and says, here's my paperwork, school started on August 2nd, you cannot use that because, again, it's after they came back. The next one there is 4-H. That's a school option. Oh, EHOs, you are allowed to have 10. That's 10 events, okay? It's not a half day here and a half day there. That's 2 events, okay? It says 10 days, but Infinite Campus, it's 10 events, okay? You cannot mesh 2 half days, make it into 1, okay? We will catch that when we do your STAR report and have you to correct it, okay? No. So we had some districts that were trying to do 3 different checkouts as one day or one event, I should say. So like they were checking out at 11 o'clock on Monday, come to school the next day and checking out again at 11 o'clock. So that's technically one day missed. And they were trying to get by with that, just one event. So if you check out on Monday, that's one day. Check out on Tuesday, that's 2 days. So if the student is gone on vacation for 5 days, that's 5 days or 5 events. Okay. When it goes into Infinite Campus, it goes in as events. Okay. That's why we're trying to change that language to that. So it has not changed. It did not change. We just had districts that were doing kind of like what that was you're doing. But according to the policy, and our policy advisor said it has to be 10 events. So it did not change. It's just we didn't catch it. So we've already worked with Infinite Campus for them to correct that as well. Yeah. That is another reason why you're not allowed to use the attendance wizard for EHOs. So it kind of calculates that. That's one reason why. We have a lot of questions, that emails and phone calls saying, hey, can we fix the attendance wizard to use EHOs? And the answer is always going to be no. Okay. Any questions on EHOs? All right, the next one there is 4-H. Again, you need to make sure you're looking at your district policy and school policy. As long as it's coming from the 4-H agent or the extension office, you're going to have a nice little letterhead that says the following students are going to be on a 4-H trip. You're allowed to mark those as state exempt attendance codes. Yes. So your question is, so you're saying the student checks out last 2 hours of school with the EHO. So when you do your check-in, check-out, so Josh Whitlow checks out at 1 o'clock. So when you put in 1 o'clock, you're going to do the excuse code EHO. And that's all you have to do. That goes in as 1 day / 1 event. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, so the next one there is college visits. Again, make sure that you're looking at your board policy and school policies on how you can code those. A lot of districts are up to 2 days of college visits. Anything after that, it's no longer college visit, goes in there as a regular excuse. The next one there is a big one, FT field trip. Again, You need to make sure that you're following your policies and guidance on field trips. We do require a certified teacher with those students, okay? They have to be a certified teacher with those students when you're taking a field trip. The next one is a big one that we look at in our office, home hospital. That is an exempt attendance code. We'll talk about home hospital a little later in the PowerPoint presentation. But again, to get home hospital, you have to have the paperwork from home hospital signed off by the doctor. Your home hospital committee has to meet and approve it, and then you can start that student on home hospital. The next one there is for basically your high school students, honor guard. Again, you need to look at your board policy and school policies on how you are allowed to use those. So students who are in the honor guard for military funerals, we do allow districts to use that and get paid. The next one there is a big one. As school is starting, and we're going to have state fair coming up here in August. You are allowed 1 day of state fair, no more, okay? If a student is leaving with a teacher, especially with your FFA students, if they're with the FFA teacher, you can count that as an FT field trip, okay? But if the student is going by themselves with parents, family members, or they're just going by themselves, make sure that you give them that state fair, SF state fair attendance code, because we will pay you for 1 day. Yes. Mm-hmm.
1 day.
So that's up to you or the district on how they do that. Because, sorry, I got to redo your question because we're being recorded. The question is they have a student that is on going to the state fair with 4-H. So she's asking if 1 day can be state fair and 1 day be 4-H. To me, if she is going with 4-H on both of those days, I would include that on the 4-H one. So if she wants to go again by herself, just to go and not worry about competition, she still has that SF state fair. So if you have a student that's going with the school or with 4-H, I 100% recommend using those codes and not take away that state fair from them. Okay? Because again, that state fair is for them by themselves to go, not competing, not doing anything else. Okay? It's just for them to go have fun at the state fair. Yes. And we're going to bring a mic to you because we're being recorded. So we kind of have to ask through the mic.
If we have teachers that are at state fair and we have students there competing, is that considered a field trip, or do they have to take the bus to be a field trip?
So that's getting a little tricky.
I know.
Because just because I'm there as a certified teacher and I'm not overseeing those kids, I'm not responsible for those kids, they're just there on their own, then no, that's not a field trip. If they are there competing with a teacher, because someone has to be over those students, if they're competing at the FFA side or 4-H, they are still responsible by a certified teacher or the 4-H agent, okay? That is then when you can use the 4-H attendance code or the FT field trip, okay? Just because I'm there from the district that I was from and Johnny L was there too, that does not count. Mark.
Okay, so Josh, our first day of school is August 14th, which of course coincides with the start of the state fair. So what do you recommend we handle? So kids that miss on the 14th, do we no-show them or do we use the state fair code? And then the second part of that question, it tends to be, okay, they'll use the state fair code on day one, but then they're also showing. And so that we've got the 4-H, should we no-show them or should we use the codes?
So we went back to our policy advisor on that, and she said state fair is an exempt attendance code. So you are allowed to do that, but they have to bring in that ticket documentation saying they're there. That is in most all board policies that you have to bring that ticket. You can't just say, oh, well, we're just gonna put you at a state fair, go ahead and get that money. You want to have documentation saying they are there at the state fair. We will be pulling that information, okay? So don't think you can get by with it. We will be pulling that information to say, hey, you use the state fair on this code, let's see the ticket, okay? Or some kind of documentation. Second part of that question, yes, you can go ahead. State fair was on the first day of school. 4-H is now picking it up because that student is going to be with the 4-H agent. Again, they're not going by themselves to the state fair without the 4-H agent. So they're still under the care of the 4-H agent. Any other questions? Yes. So that is, oh, sorry.
Do we have to ask for the ticket just because it fell on that day, or any day that they go? They
So
go. Do we
for
need
you
a
to use
ticket?
the state fair attendance code, it should be in your board policies that you are requiring that state fair ticket to come back. Most policies that I've looked at throughout the state, it does say you have to present something from the state fair. Now, if you change your board policy, that's totally different. But that's why we say make sure you're looking at your school policy there. Any other questions? Yes, in the back, Sasha.
My grandson is competing at the state fair as Civics B. So what would we code for that?
Civics. He doesn't have a teacher or anything with him. So that's when you use the state fair attendance code. Yeah, it's not a school field trip. So you would use the state fair attendance code on that one. Or you can do an EHO. Yeah, yeah.
I think most of the time we use the EHO, but
Yeah.
I wasn't for sure.
Nope, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great questions. The next one there, you see that is highlighted. That is new for this year. Okay. It is moral instruction, KRS 158-200. This allows any student that can leave up to 60 minutes per week. Okay, for moral instruction. There is guidance we'll talk about on the next slide. So I want to cover that, but just want to bring your attention to that. We did put that in all your databases over the summer. So make sure you do go in there and look at that and make sure it is set up correctly. The state code is O. The abbreviation is MI, moral instruction as description, absent, exempt. Okay. You want to make sure that is in your Infinite Campus correctly. Okay. The next ones are, you see they all said exempt. The next 4 are not exempt, so we do not pay you for those. But we do have state attendance codes in there because we need to track those for other purposes. What we call Across the River, LRC, they ask for this information and we pull it every single year for them. So the next 2 is your flu-like symptoms. You have one that's excused and one that's unexcused. The next one is your mental behavioral health, HB 44, that came out during COVID. So you want to make sure that if you're using MB, mental behavioral health, that you're following your policy. You are required to set up a district policy on that. So make sure that you are following that as well. Any questions on state attendance codes? All right. Yeah, sorry. Yes, we did pull it over the summer. We did put in moral instruction. So I think that went into play. It went in the same time that we took the old look out. So I would say probably 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, what do we do?
You'll need to send us an email. Send me an email because I'll need to get with Infinite Campus.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, can you give an example of what the moral instruction, like what's an example of that?
So that's the next slide. So moral instruction, KRS 158-200 in Senate Bill 19. amended KRS 158-200 to include local boards of education shall allow pupils to be excused up to 1 hour, no more than 1 day of each week. Okay. This is not in our office, so I cannot talk to you about it because I don't know a lot about it myself. We're just asked to cover it. But there's the moral instructions guidance. Karen Davidson is your contact. She is in Office of Teaching and Learning. She is your contact for that. But if you click on that moral instruction guidance from that email that I sent you, it is going to give you because you have to put that in Infinite Campus now. That is a requirement. Your local board has to approve those kids to go on the moral instruction. And it has to be also entered into Infinite Campus because that is a data pool that we will have to pull out and provide to LRC. So basically, if you have students who are Muslim and they have a certain time that they have to go to church, or I don't know what they call theirs, for prayer, they are allowed to leave up to an hour each week. That's one of the examples that they gave us during session. But again, it has to be approved through your local board. Also has to be entered inside of Infinite Campus. That guidance document goes into great detail about that. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at, of course, we talked about attendance codes. Your list may be larger than what is on the screen. This is just our normal attendance codes. Districts are allowed to enter attendance codes. I had a district to call me yesterday and said, hey, can I put a principal excuse in there? Absolutely, you can. The only time that you are required to contact us here at KDE is if you're going to put an exempt attendance code, because exempt means we're going to pay you for that. Rhonda and I will have a lot of questions for you of why you're using that exempt attendance codes. Last summer, we went through every exempt attendance code. Our field staff was contacting you, asking you why you were using this, give us examples of why you were using this. And then Rhonda and I sat down, went through those and approved them or did not approve those. If we did not approve it, we made sure that you deleted it for that school year. So again, if you are going to create an exempt attendance code, that you need to send Rhonda and I an email, because we will then have a conversation if we need to involve our policy advisor as well on it. And then we'll let you know if you can enter it in Infinite Campus or not. Again, here's the examples to enter an attendance code. You're just going to click on New at the top. Your code, you will give it up to a 3-digit code. Then you're going to follow it with the state attendance code. More likely, it's going to be excused, doctor's note, parent note, or unexcused. Then you're going to give the status as absent or present, depends on what attendance code you're creating. Never enter an attendance code status as tardy. We do not use those in the state of Kentucky. It does mess with funding. Okay. I pull a list every year to make sure no one has used the status tardy. Now you can create the name tardy, that's fine, but not the status as tardy. I will pull a list after school starts, making sure no one has that. And if it is like that, I will be reaching out to you and say, hey, I need you to correct this. Again, there's your excuse. It's either going to be excused or unexcused, unless we give you the okay to excuse it or to exempt it, sorry. Any questions on how to create an attendance code? Any questions about attendance code at all? Right behind you, Rhonda.
Would it be appropriate to create a tardy code? Because we have several students that are always like 5 minutes late.
That's a district decision on how you want to handle that. You'll need to get with your DPP office and superintendent for that. In Infinite Campus, it automatically, we have it set to where if it's tardy, half day or whole day attendance, but that's up to the district on how they want to set that up. So you'll need to get with your DPP, Infinite Campus coordinator, and your superintendent on how you want to handle those. But you are allowed, yes, to have one called tardy. I will say the district that I come from, the lady who was in charge of Infinite Campus before me, She did have one that was in there tardy. And so it was, but we had a whole list of things. And so I went through and cleaned it up. After talking with KDE, it doesn't matter if it says tardy or all day excuse or half day excuse. The time is what they're going by at the department and what we have to turn in when the student is in truancy trouble. The judge doesn't understand if it's tardy or all day exempt. We had to explain it no matter what. So everything went in just exempt or as unexcused. Any other questions? All right. So the next thing we're going to look at is your school calendar. Again, some of this information as attendance clerks, you're not going to understand. But again, going to give you the background of it just so that you do know in case you ever decide to move on up to central office. So before school even starts, usually hope and pray that everyone has already done rollover and has already, I know everyone's already done a school calendar because you had to submit those to us before June 30th. But this is where everything starts inside of Infinite Campus. Your start date is always going to be July 1. Your end date is always going to be June 30th. Okay. That is the school year calendar, not when you actually start school. It's the school year calendar. And the reason for that is for your Frisky program. Okay. So if you put that on the first day of school, when they go in and do back to school fest or back to school bash, whatever you call it in your district, they have to enter all that information inside of Infinite Campus too. Okay. How many people showed up? How many volunteers showed up? All that information has to be sent into Infinite Campus. We pull that data and send it over to CHFS for their documentation and funding. So if that says first day of school and they try to go in and put that information in, it's going to block them out and say access is denied. Okay. So that's why we always say 7/1 to 6:30. You'll see the type. It's always going to say instructional. Unless it is a summer school calendar, then you're going to follow the summer school guidance. Okay. Instructional is going to be S, summer school. You're going to check the summer school checkbox and you're going to click exclude. Okay. That is only for a summer school calendar. We also see districts that are creating another calendar under the district office for homeschool kids. They're still wanting to track those students inside their district because, again, at the end of the day, they're still responsible for those students. Okay, so they have them in a homeschool calendar, which is exclude because we don't care at the state level about that calendar. Okay, that's just for you in the district for tracking purposes only. Any questions? The next thing we're going to look at is term dates. Again, all of this is set up on the backside of Infinite Campus before you as an attendance clerk start your job. So they're going to go into, depends on if your district is using quarters, trimesters, or semesters. This is where they will set that information up there. The only thing that we look at here at KDE or myself when I'm doing my reporting is that start date is the first day of school for students. And that last date is the last day of quarter 4 or the trimester or the semester. That last one is the last day of students. Okay. I get a lot of calls at the end of the year because they're saying, hey, our grades are not calculating correctly. I have already put grades in for final grade. They should have a higher grade than what they're getting. My first place that I'm looking at is making sure that that quarter 4 is the last day of the school year. Because more likely you're going to have to extend that out if we have a bad winter or weather in general, because we've had a lot of flooding, wind, we've had to cancel school. So every time you cancel school, you have to backdate that up. Okay. So that's the first place that I'm going to look at. And 99% of the time, that is the reason. We go in and correct that date, and then we rerun the grades, rerun the transcript, and everything looks correct. Okay. Because if that says 5/12 and teachers are putting grades in on 5/16, those are not being calculated in to the final grade. So you need to make sure that those are correct. Any questions? Central office people. The next one is a very important tab inside of Infinite Campus, which is the periods tab, especially at the middle school and high school. You want to make sure that this is always correct. This is one of those things which Becky will talk about if you're with us this afternoon with the attendance audit. This is one thing that we look at every single school that we audit. We make sure that it matches what it's being posted inside the school, okay? You will see that it says 7:50 to 8:30, 8:30 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10:15. There's not a break in there, okay? When calendars were coming in this year, we had a lot of errors that were happening that they were not meeting the 1,062 hours of instruction. The reason for that is because they were putting in the passing time. So they would say 7:50 to 8:30, and then second period would start at 8:35. We at KDE allow up to 5 minutes of passing time for every school district, okay? Anything over 5 is what they call non-instructional. So if you have a break in between 6th and 7th and you give a 8-minute passing time, you would still put in the time, but then you're going to put in 3 minutes of non-instructional time. If you're doing lunch, has to go in there as well, because again, that's non-instructional time. So you have to put your lunch minutes in there as well. Instructional minutes cannot exceed 420 minutes. You're not allowed to instruct any student over 420 minutes of instructional time. Your standard day minutes can exceed 420 because again, that's going to include all your non-instructional time. So that's going to include if you have more than 5 minutes of passing time, if you have a recess time that's in there, and your lunch minutes. That can go above the 420 minutes. If you are creating a brand new bell schedule, you want to make sure that you're looking at your standard day, okay? You see periods 1 through 7, they have standard day because that's what we want to calculate inside the instructional minutes and the standard day minutes. Middle school and high school, virtual performance space, you want to make sure that you have that set outside the time of the day, and you want to look at your standard day minutes. To calculate it, you'll look at your standard day minutes divided by the number of class periods of the standard day. Questions?
Yes. So do you not include class change minutes? Because these go straight from 8:30.
No,
to
that's what I was talking
Okay.
about. You do not,
Okay.
that's what we call passing time.
Okay.
Yes, passing time is the in between. Yes, you're allowed up to 5 minutes, no more. You can go over, but it's got to go into non-instructional. Any questions on the virtual performance space? I always have tons of questions about that, on how it's calculated. Again, you're going to take the standard day minutes divided by the standard day class periods. So you do 415 divided by 7, and that's how you would get your time. Any other questions? All right, school day calendar. This is what we call the days tab. This is what we're telling Infinite Campus what to do each and every day, okay? So you will see here that there's only one period schedule. Some districts may have 3 or 4 period schedules. The district that I came from before coming to KDE, I had 2 period schedules because we had early release Friday, okay? So when we go into the days calendar, I would have to tell the calendar and that day which period schedule to follow, okay? So for it to be a normal school day, you're going to have the school day checkbox, the instructional checked, and the attendance checked. That is a normal day. You will also see here, it's grayed out because we only have 1 period schedule. But if you have more than 1 period schedule, you will see a drop down, and that's where you're going to tell the system which bell schedule to follow. So if we were looking at my district that I came from, on Friday, you would see, I named mine M-TH, and then my second bell schedule was just called Friday. So you would see Monday through Thursday, it would say M-TH, and then on Friday, you would see where it would say Friday instead of the number of days. Okay, that's how mine was set up. Let's say we're going to take a snow day. You have to go inside of Infinite Campus and tell the system that we're not having school today. So the district, whoever's in charge, some it's attendance clerk, some it's DPP, some it's their Infinite Campus coordinator. You're going to go in and mark school day, instructional, and attendance. You're going to make sure all three of those are unchecked. You're going to come down to day event, and you're going to click on W, weathered canceled, because there's no teachers in the building and there's no students in the building. It's what we call an old-fashioned snow day. Okay, no one's in the building, so we have to cancel school altogether. If you're taking an NTI day, okay, the district is going to have school that day, instruction's going on, but there's no attendance being taken inside of Infinite Campus. You're taking attendance outside of Infinite Campus in a Google Sheet, Excel document, however you track your attendance for that day. So the attendance checkbox is going to be unchecked. Your day event is going to be in non-traditional instruction. I 100% recommend anytime you change anything in the days tab, you're putting a comment in, okay? That's going to help you in the long run. If something ever comes back prior years, you can go back and say, oh, we didn't have school on this day because da, 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 da. So when I was in the district, and that's how I recommend it KDE as well, with OCIS, if it's taking an NTI day, you do NTI day number 1 and the reason. So if it's due to safety or if it's due to health, okay? Let's see. Also, if you're doing an hour delay of school or you're going to dismiss school early, all that has to be entered inside of Infinite Campus here on the days tab as well. So you're coming in an hour delay, so you're going to do school day, instruction, and attendance is going to be checked. But your start time, say if you start school at 8:30 on a normal day, you're moving to 9:30. You're going to enter in 9:30, and that's it. Do not put an end time in because you're telling the schedule it's going to follow the rest of the day. Okay, you're just saying, hey, we're going to start school at 9:30. Same thing for if you're dismissing school early due to weather or for any other reason, you're going to put the end time. You start school on time, so don't put a start time in there. You're just going to put the end time of when you're leaving. We found out this year districts who were putting a start time in and an end time was messing with the calendar. It was not giving the correct minutes. Okay, so you probably got an email from me or a phone call and saying, hey, let's correct this and resubmit. Okay, do not touch the duration. It automatically fills in for you once you click save. Again, if you're doing an hour delay or dismissing, make sure you put a comment in just for your records. Believe me, there's many times my superintendent would come to me and say, hey, I know we missed school on this day. Why did we miss school? So I was able to pull it up. We missed school because of weather it was ice, snow, flooding, or whatever reason. Any questions on this part? Right. School months. This is a big one. Okay, we had a lot of errors this year on school months. Okay, school months start when you start school. So when we say start school, that includes your 4 professional development days, your 4 holidays, your 1 opening, and your 1 closing. You are required to have those inside of your school calendar. Okay, 4 professional development days, 4 holidays, 1 opening, and 1 closing. If you do teacher equivalency, that's a school day. You have to count it part of your school months. G, planning. That again, that's part of your school year, part of your school months, part of a school day. You have to include that inside of your school months. I always tell districts, do not put anything in this days tab. This year or this past summer, we're working on school calendars. Districts are putting 20 days in there. That is not correct, okay? So what this days is talking about, this is talking about instructional days, okay? This was not including your 4 professional development days, your 4 holidays, your opening and closing. It was not calculating those. So it was throwing errors the whole entire time. So you have to manually put in the start date and the end date, and then it will automatically figure for you your instructional days, okay? That's something that came out 2 years ago when Infinite Campus took on the state of North Carolina. That's one of those requirements that they had to have for their reporting. We don't report on that on the front end. We report on the back end. This closing date here, this is a district decision on how you want to handle it. Some districts use it and some don't. This is when you close out that school month. So in the district that I came from, my example is I would tell the districts, hey, month 1 has ended on 9/14. You have up to 2 weeks to get all your information in, and then we're going to balance the school month, which we will talk about all this at the end. But here is where you're going to put that closing date. So anything after 9/29, you as a attendance clerk cannot go in and change anything. It's going to lock you out. You would then have to contact your central office, DPP, cases admin, and have them to either unlock it or change the attendance code for you. It's not going to allow you to do that. Okay. Any questions? How many school days are you required to have? Minimum of 170 if you're a traditional calendar. But how many school days are you required to have in each year? You are required to have 185 school days in a calendar, no less. Can you have more? Yes. How many days are in each school month? 20. Can you have more than 20? Can you have less than 20? No. You are required to have 20 school days in months 1 through 9. Okay. You have to have 20 school days. Month 10, you are allowed to have less. Okay. You will always have 10 school months. No matter if you start school, do the variable calendar, you will always have 10 school months because you are required to have 185 school days. So to get 185 into 20, you're going to have the 10. Okay. Any questions? All right, next thing we're going to look at is the course tab. I did not grab a new screenshot. I was locked out when I was updating this. So this is an old screenshot. I will try to get the new one. Hopefully I get access this afternoon. But this is more, I'm looking at the virtual performance-based side of things. For districts that are doing virtual performance-based, traditional virtual performance-based, that's when a student is not on campus. That includes students leaving, going to college courses or on college campus. They're leaving for co-op. They're leaving the high school to go to the middle school or to the elementary school to help a teacher out. If they are leaving the high school grounds, that is a virtual performance base. Attendance cannot be taken on those students. If they are being transported from high school to the ATC, that's totally different. Because again, they're being transported back to a certified teacher, so you can take attendance on them. Virtual performance base is only when they leave the campus. There's not a certified teacher with them. So let's say Sasha is going to work for McDonald's. So she's leaving the campus because she's already completed her courses. And so they're doing co-op and she's going to work. Can we take attendance on them? The answer is no. You can never take attendance on a student that is not in your building and with a certified teacher. We had that to come up a lot this year. We want to make sure that that is very clear to everyone. If they are leaving campus and going somewhere else, you cannot take attendance on them, even if they check in and say, hey, I'm leaving in the front office to go to work, and they sign the paper, that still is not attendance. It cannot be tracked that way. Any questions? Yes.
If they are co-oping in our building, say in the front office, does it still need to be that virtual performance space because they're not with a certified teacher at that time? But if they're in the front office with our secretary, is that allowed to be taken attendance on, have attendance taken?
Yes, you can take attendance on that kid. Yeah, because that's just the same thing as if a student was in trouble in the front office, same thing. Or if the student is in detention and a detention teacher is a classified employee, same thing. That's when they leave your building and no longer under your care, that's when it switches to virtual performance base. Still leaving the building. Yeah, still leaving the building. If they leave the building at any time that's not an ATC or a CTC, you have to take virtual performance base on them. You cannot take in-seat attendance. Any other questions? Yes.
So at the end of the year last year, we had an issue with a student that would co-op part of the day and he would come back for the last class period of the day. And it got to where he would call and he would say, I'm not coming back for the last class period. So I would just sign him out and make note that he did not return and mark it as tardy because it was just that last little bit. But is that the correct way to
That's
do
the
that?
correct way, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you have a student that is, even if they do co-op in the beginning of the day, in the morning, they come in third period or third block and they don't show up, that is when you have to go in and mark them absent for the rest of the day. So the same thing if they leave, like they have first period, second period at school, third, fourth, and fifth, they are co-oping 6th and 7th, they come back, they don't come back. That is why attendance is very important and why teachers should take attendance every single period. Okay, that is what's going to catch that. And then you're going to say, oh, he didn't come back, I got to mark him absent. Okay. Hang on just a second.
So if they do co-op first and second period, but then they never show up to third, is that unexcused all day?
Yes.
If they did not show up? Okay.
Because the reason why it's excused all day is because the first two blocks or first two periods is virtual performance base. Yeah. So that's a different.
So I go in and mark.
Yes. Yes. Because it's not going to allow you to do first and second period attendance on them anyway. Yeah. Mark.
So Josh, if we have like college professors that come to our school and teach that college course there, or we have our own certified staff that have been approved by the colleges to offer that dual credit class in-house, do we have the option to do? No, you're saying we have to take attendance?
Mhm.
I think that's not been, maybe on our part, that's been not understood. So if it is,
they're sitting underneath you as a certified teacher, you have to take attendance on those.
well, the college professor would not be,
You have a certified teacher in that building or in that room with them?
no.
That's when we're going to send to OTL. Rhonda, will you write that down for me?
But if the teacher, so you're saying if one of our,
So let's say I am a professor or I am a high school teacher. I have enough credentials to teach a college level course, right?
correct.
So I'm teaching English 101.
Mhm.
I am a certified teacher employed by the district. I'm going to take attendance on my kids.
So that course typically is set up the same way it would be at the local university. So like, let's say the course.
So you can still mark it for performance based
Okay,
because they're moving at their own pace.
okay.
But that student is physically in that seat. They're still required to be in that seat no matter what.
So if that class is only offered Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
What are
you're-
they doing the rest of the time?
they're not coming in, to be honest. I mean, because it's been viewed as a dual credit course.
So if you're doing it that way, then yes, it's going to be performance based. But what are they? They need to be doing. They have to have some kind of instruction going on those other days
So,
because they're not meeting the 120.
so like
That's an
for
OTL question. You need to talk to Karen Davidson. I can answer any of those questions.
Karen Date. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I can only answer virtual performance based attendance side. As far as the instructional side, you need to contact Karen Davidson, who is over in Office of Teaching and Learning. She will then be able to give you full description on how it needs to be entered. Yes.
Okay, so I have a group of students in my high school who sit in a computer lab to do what we call a virtual learning lab. They do have a certified teacher in there, but their curriculum, what they're learning is through that virtual platform. Is that class marked virtual performance based?
So
Or
it's
is
always,
it
it's
marked
always going to be marked
attendance?
for virtual performance based. The type is always going to be performance based. The part where we're going to be looking at is that attendance checkbox. If that teacher is certified and is responsible for those students and they are required to be in class, then yes, attendance is going to be taken. That media specialist teacher is going to take
Gotcha.
attendance. If they are required to be in that room,
They are.
they cannot roam and go out, come back, wherever they do, however they please. They are to be in that class. That teacher should be taking attendance on that student.
Okay.
It's still going to be marked as type as performance
Mhm.
because, again, they're working at their own pace.
But see, to me, that sounds contradictory because virtual performance based, I thought, was based on the grade at the end of that's how you get the attendance.
No, yes, that's how you get the attendance, but that student is required to be in class, right?
Right.
So they're going to be taking attendance.
So then their attendance will be based on the checkbox and not the type.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That type, the difficult or the type there, that's just telling the system, hey, they don't have to follow the 120.
For attendance, if that's unchecked, then that's when the grade comes into
Correct.
play. Thank you.
Yes. And then you're also going to have the difficulty level, the teaching method, the instructional setting. All that's coming from OTL, which is Karen Davidson on how that's handled. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So now we're going to get into taking attendance, making sure it's in correctly. This is where you, as an attendance clerk, I always tell you, you are the most important person in the district and the least paid person in the district. Okay. I 100% get it. Been in that role or assisted in that role before moving on up. So I know exactly what you're going through or have been going through. But we want to make sure that it's correct because, again, I mean, I tell superintendents and DPPs all the time, hey, it starts with your attendance clerks, it ends with your attendance clerks, and they get the least paid. I do my best to get you all more money, but it doesn't work a lot of times. But I promise I'm here to speak on your behalf. So the first thing we're going to look at is teachers taking attendance. When teachers log into Infinite Campus, no matter what device they're using, if it is a laptop, their desktop, their iPhone, their Android, iPad, whatever they're using, this looks the same on all devices, okay? So teachers will come up with 1,000 excuses. I came up with 1,000 excuses, okay? Been there, done that. And then I heard all the excuses when I was at the central office. Well, I got too busy. I'm like, well, I promise you, I've seen you in the hallway with your phone and you glued to your face. So you have no excuse. So whatever device they're using, they can take attendance. Keep in mind that students are marked present until marked absent. So they don't have to worry about going through and clicking on all those present Ps, okay? The only ones that they have to worry about is marking the absences, okay? Also, just keep in mind for yourself, DPPs, make sure you're reaching out to everyone in your district as well. Whatever they put in this comment follows it, okay? And when I mean follows it, once they click save, it sends that parent, if they have parent portal, it sends them a message that says Josh Whitlow is absent, and then whatever comment is being put in, okay? This happened a couple of years ago. I got a very nasty phone call from a parent that was very mad because of the comments that were being put in. So just make sure that you're being very careful and your teachers are very careful of what they put inside those comments. Because once you click save and that parent has notifications turned on, it sends them a ding. Promise. Been there, done that. Okay. Again, present, absent, do not mark tardy. We do not use tardies. This is for first period. Okay. First period attendance, it's either present or absent. They are never tardy. You as the attendance clerk is going to show them that they are tardy when you do the check-in, check-out part, okay? Again, Middle school and high school, you are required to take period attendance every single time that bell rings. When that tardy bell rings, teachers should be entering that attendance, okay? Also, Infinite Campus has a nice little button up here that's called seating chart. Teachers can go in and design their classroom however they want, okay? So if I'm standing up in the front, I have my iPad or my laptop, I can see, look across, and I know exactly who's absent. I can click on their picture, it automatically marks them absent, okay? When Infinite Campus first came to the state of Kentucky, you had 2 options on seating charts. Now you can design your room however you want, or your seating chart. So if you have the line of rows here, or if you have the rows going this way, you can do the little pod of 4. You can do the U shape, horseshoe, however you want to. Infinite Campus allows those teachers to do that also. If you import your pictures into Infinite Campus, their pictures will show up as well. So when they on the seating chart side, okay. Any questions on first period attendance? All hands. Oh, there it is.
So every now and then a teacher will mark a kid tardy on their own if they come in their classroom late. Should we send out an email and ask them not to do that, or should I
Very
just
much so.
automatically change it on my end?
I would send, that should come from your DPP office.
Okay.
Just make sure you get with your DPP because they should have a list of stuff that principals are going over with them from the attendance side. I would just make sure that's one of those that they need to cover.
Okay, yeah,
Do
it's
not
just-
mark T for attendance.
Okay,
or
just once
T
in a
for
blue moon, so I
tardy.
just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yes, you can fix it. If it does come in as tardy, you just go in there and fix it. Yeah. Sasha in the back. Back corner.
That's just for first period, correct? If they're tardy throughout the rest of the day, then the teachers can mark them tardy.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
that is okay. All right.
Because this is what we're reconciling first period. We're only reconciling unknown absences. All right, so next thing, once all your teachers have done your attendance, you're going in to look at classroom monitors to make sure you're seeing all the green. If it's red, that means they did not take attendance, what I call the Christmas tree. So just keep in mind too, this was just my rule at the district that I come from. They had 30 minutes to take attendance first period, which really they had 10 minutes. I told the teachers they have 10 minutes to do it, but they had up to 30 minutes from the front office. We started school at 7:30. By 8 o'clock, I should be able to run my reports at the district level by 8 o'clock. So again, because that's for safety side, because again, something does happen first period, we want to know who we're responsible for and who we're not responsible for, okay? So that's why, again, yes, funding side, but a lot of that side is the safety side. We want to know who is in our building, who are we responsible for, and things like that. So also, again, if it's green, teachers took the attendance. If it's red, they did not take attendance. This is something that we do look. Becky will talk about this later if you're with us this afternoon too. We look at your classroom monitor to make sure that you are checking that attendance. So if you're not taking or checking that attendance, we're printing that off and that's going to be in your write-up report as well. But Becky will cover that this afternoon if you're with us this afternoon. Also, you can see in the green, it says 15 students are present out of 19. So that's how you can also look at that to make sure. And if they're not, you can see that it's got the dash and then one student should be counted present in there. The next thing we're going to look at is that incomplete teacher attendance. Does anybody use that in your district? If you do not use that, that is a great tool that Infinite Campus has for us. So that is one report that I use all the time, and I made my attendance clerks use it. So after that 10 minutes was up or the 5 minutes was up, they always pulled it on 10 minutes. I would have them to pull that report every period, because after so long, at the end of the day or on the Fridays, I would come around and collect those papers. And if I saw a teacher on there constantly because the superintendent put me in charge of all attendance, I would go to that teacher and have that one-on-one conversation with them. Ask them, hey, you're on here every single day, every single period. What's the deal? You know, so I would have that conversation with you. Yes. I'll come over here. Yes.
With the incomplete teacher attendance, is there a way to pull it every period? Because I have almost 1,800 enrolled. And if, say, fourth period, my usual suspects are the teacher hasn't taken that attendance, and then the next period, they show up absent, I needed to know if they were in that class or not. So I ultimately end up calling the classroom, telling the teacher, you know, hey, you didn't do your attendance last period. So at the end of the day, it ends up showing up in green. But when it comes down to it, the principal needs to know the teachers that aren't taking their attendance.
Yes. So yes, you can pull that. You can pull that incomplete teacher at any time. That's why I tell. Yes, but you do it after every period. So that's what I had my clerks do. Like after first period or after second period, they were to run that report, print it. After third period, pull the report and print it before they went in and start looking for those students or call it. Mm-mm. You can create an ad hoc. Yeah, you can create an ad hoc. Yep. Also, you see the attendance, or not attendance, that check mark under primary teachers only. That is another good report too for, because again, especially at the elementary level, you may have the primary teacher, but you also may have that special ed teacher in there as well. Who is responsible for those kids? The primary teacher is the ones who is responsible for that kid, those kids. Okay. So when you click on that primary teacher, it's only going to show who is listed as the primary teacher. Okay. So let's say I'm the primary teacher. Sasha is my special ed teacher. Can Sasha go in there and take attendance for all the kids? Yes, because she is in there with me. She said, Josh, I'll take attendance. You start class. So it's automatically going to turn her green and myself green. Okay. So that is another good thing. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for those teachers because I'm the primary teacher, not the special ed teacher. Okay. Same thing at the elementary level. You start going to specials or you have your RTI team on there. They have to be attached to those courses as well for federal reporting and state reporting. So again, you can click on that primary teacher and it's only going to show you the teachers that are responsible for taking attendance. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Infinite Campus also has what they call sub-attendance rosters. Okay. This is also a great tool too. If you are an attendance clerk, just give you an example how we took care of it in our district. My attendance clerk was responsible for teachers, substitute teachers as well. So she knew exactly who was going to be out the next day or that morning. So she would come in first thing in the morning, run the sub attendance, see who's going to be absent. Then she would log into Infinite Campus and run the teachers' sub rosters. And when they come in to check in, she would say, here's your rosters. Here's all the other information too. That bottom part too is she loved that bottom part because it said school comments. She can say, hey, if you have attendance problems or attendance questions, call this extension. Your lunch period is from this time to this time. You cover hallway bathroom duty from this time to this time. If you have behavior issues, you call this number. If you have school nurse, here's her extension. So all that information can be put on all those sheets at the same time where she didn't have to look up for all these extensions. Who do I need to contact for this? Who do I need to contact for that? So she put all that information there as well. They are allowed to print student pictures. So if you have those uploaded into Infinite Campus as well. Any questions on that? So you as the attendance clerk, once you receive that sub attendance back, you should go in and mark the attendance, okay? This is the only time that I recommend you changing any of the data inside of Infinite Campus in Classroom Monitor, okay? Rest of the time, and I had a teacher, health teacher, he would never post his attendance because he was in the gym, okay? He said, I don't have time to do that. So what did I do? I bought a Chromebook and said, this is to stay with you at all times. Okay. So he didn't have an excuse. He would come in every day and tell Miss Shirley, hey, all my kids are here, or this student and this student was absent. I put a stop to that because, again, you as the attendance clerks, the phone is ringing nonstop in the morning. You have teachers at your face asking 5,000 questions. Your admin's asking 5,000 questions. You don't have time to worry about other teachers saying, hey, my kids are not here. Here's the ones that are absent. They need to use Infinite Campus, okay? It is the state law that they are to record their attendance. There's a KRS that backs that, KRS 158-200, okay? It's in their teacher contract as well. Yes.
So we have encountered several days within our district that our internet would be down. Pretty much all day, if not all day, maybe multiple days. So I try to get it some other method. So you email me, you text me, or something like that. So are we to go back in then as soon as it becomes available as the attendance clerks?
Yes.
And post the attendance, or should we put that back on the teachers? No. Okay. So
And the reason why I'm saying that is they cannot go back the previous day. You are the only one that can go back in the previous day.
Okay.
Teachers do not have access to the previous day of attendance.
Okay. So if we are down multiple days and we go back in and do that, like, is there like a time frame that like you all say it has to be in by this time, or is that just dependent on like when we have accessibility to that?
Rule of thumb is as soon as it comes back up, put it in Infinite Campus, because that is the database that we have to use. So if something happens that we need to pull data from, or central office needs to pull data, if something happens, we need to make sure it's correct. Yeah. So if it's 2 days out and it comes back on the third day, we ask that you get that in as soon as possible on that third day. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
Sometimes our teachers, they have issues with their personal computer, their computers, and they can't do it. So is there some way that we can document that we're putting it in because they have an issue?
I would just have a regular documentation. My clerks kept a log if they had to enter it in for them, just because I did monthly audits on them. So they would say, hey, Josh had trouble from this time to this time. I was entering his attendance. But if it's something that kept going, then I was responsible for the tech team. I would say, hey, go check Josh's computer. He can't take attendance. I need a reason why. Any other questions? All right, so now once all of attendance is taken, you put your substitute teachers in, their attendance in. Now it's time to run that attendance wizard. Please, 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 please use the attendance wizard. Do not go one by one and mark those students unexcused absent, okay? We are still finding those clerks that are still doing that, okay? That is I'm not saying it's wrong, but you're more likely to have errors. When we audited that district, we found a lot of errors because they were not using the attendance wizard, okay? For one, you don't have time to click on every single student. If you have 80 students absent that day, you're going to click on 80 students, click on the unexcused absence, click save 80 times. We have a process for that, and it's called the attendance wizard, okay? So how the attendance wizard works, you're going to make sure that you're on the correct attendance date, okay? You're going to come down and look for absent unknown, because anytime a teacher marks a student absent, it comes in yellow, A, unknown. So that's what we're looking for. This is for first period attendance, okay? So once you click on absent unknown, click on the search box. You will then see all those students populate, okay? You're going to select all. Then we're going to come over to the third section and click on whole day. Again, you want to make sure that this start date and end date is the correct attendance date, okay? Then you're going to give the correct attendance code, whatever code that you're using in your district, okay? Most common is just unexcused absent, okay? You're then going to come down to records option, override existing records, because we want to say all those yellow A unknown are going to red unexcused absent. You will then click save, and then everyone is now marked for unexcused absent, okay? The attendance wizard has two different options that you can use. This is also a great tool. Has anyone used the two batch? Especially if you, hopefully if you've been with me for the last couple of years, you start using this now because I've gone over it every year. So let's say we're at the state fair. We have all those FFA students leaving the district to go to the state fair with the FFA teacher. So we need to go in and mark them FT field trip because they're not in our building, okay? So we don't need, if something happens in the building, we can say, oh, they're on a field trip, they're not in our building, we don't have to worry, we don't have to be accounted for them, okay? So before you go through and mark all your students unexcused absent, let's do the field trip list first, okay? FFA teacher has given you a list who's on the bus because they may have left before school even started. So let's now mark those students field trip. So now we're going to go into absent unknown, pull all those students up. Once you have those students, click on that batch to list. You will now see this second column. Go by your list of what the FFA teacher turned in, start clicking on those students. Once you start clicking on those students, they will automatically appear in the second column, okay? We're going to do the exact same thing. Go down to section 3, click on whole day, check in, or the start date and end date should be the day of the attendance. Mark your attendance code as FT field trip. You now have marked all those students gone as a field trip. You don't have to go in manually click on all those students and say, oh, they're on a field trip. Let's change that attendance code. This will do it for you, okay? I do not recommend using the check-in, check-out feature on this, okay? That's just my recommendation and KDE's recommendation and our field staff, okay? Because if you click on the wrong student or the wrong time, it's going to mark all those students at that time, okay? So I'd still recommend doing the check-in, check-outs one by one when you're checking in and checking out those students. Any questions on the attendance wizard? Yes, I got it, Rhonda.
Going way too deep into this. But is there a way for me, so let's say the teacher says all fifth graders are going to the zoo. We do this all the time. But sometimes it overrides my home hospital or my suspensions.
So that's what that bottom part is. Yeah. No. Yeah, because that other part is the fill down. That's only for check-in, check-outs, which I do not recommend. Any other questions? All right. So again, this is your, if you want to check your work, again, go to the attendance tab there, and then you can see that that student is now absent on 9/15. So now we're going to look at the check-in, check-out side. Again, we want to make sure that you're doing this. It's our recommendation that you're doing this one-on-one and not using the attendance wizard. I will say, I do recommend using the attendance wizard if you're doing a field trip. So let's say if it's a half-day field trip. So let's say I was in charge of FBLA. So we were leaving at 11 o'clock to go to Louisville for conference, okay? So then I would have the attendance clerk to pull all those students in and then check them out at 11 o'clock because again, she went through that list. They're all checking out at the same time. So I would do the checkout, 11 o'clock, FT field trip, and where she didn't have to go through all that because we put all field trips. If they left the building or anything, it all went to Infinite Campus, okay? Some districts don't, but again, you just need to make sure that you have some type of paperwork that who you're not responsible for during that time. So check in, check out, you're going to go to that student, click on new. Again, you're going to make sure that the date is correct. you're going to enter the student is coming in at 8:25. They are excused. So you're going to put all that information down here. Check in 8:25, excuse, click add. Then you're able to put in comments. Okay. Again, be very careful with your comments because whatever you put inside of Infinite Campus is what's also going to show on Parent Portal. Okay. I always made my clerks put in comments, especially if it's excused or something like that, for court documentation. So when I went to court, I can say, yes, he was absent, or check in, check out because of this. Anytime if they were late, we always ask why they were late. If they give us an excuse, we put that inside Infinite Campus because, again, that was court documentation for us. The daily attendance report. Again, this is a great tool too inside of Infinite Campus. You can do your summary report, which does the whole entire day. I made my clerks print this out at the end of the day, and that's what they were able to audit themselves on. So they can go through their check-in, check-out log and said, okay, Josh Whitlow checked out at 8:25. He checked out at 8:25. Sasha Reinhardt checked in 7:30, checked in 7:30. So that's a great report that they use to make sure they were auditing themselves. Also, that caller report is another great tool too that Infinite Campus provides. If your district or you as an attendance clerk call every single parent to see where they're at. Hey, we're missing you at school today. Let us know why you're absent. So we used to have the, what we still do, the one call. And so it was sending automatically a message out. I did not like that. I wanted that one-on-one calling with those parents. So I did change that when I was in the district. So we had that to go by. All right, so now we're going to look at the calculation of the attendance. This is your whole day, half day. So this is also found in the pupil attendance manual as well. Again, your whole day is 100% attendance or 100% absent. Your half day is 0.5, so, and then your no attendance, and then your tardy. So to read this across, so let's say Josh Whitlow is present 100% of the day to 65% of the day, I'm going to get a whole day funding. 64 to 16% of the day, that's half day funding. Your no attendance is 15% to 0%. So your tardy is actually 99 to 65% of the day because, again, they're not that 100. So if they check in at 7:30, school starts at 7:30, they check in at 7:31, they're part of that 99%. We're still going to fully fund you because you see the 1.0. That means we're still going to fully fund you for that. We'll fully fund you up to 65% of the day. And then it turns over to half-day funding. Read it backwards. 0 to 35, they're absent, so they're absent all day. If they're absent 36 to 84% of the day, that's a half-day funding. And if they're absent from 85% of the day to 100% of the day, again, that's no funding. And if they're absent 0 to 35% of the day, that's a tardy. Okay, that's in the AM and the PM side. So if they check out right before school ends, as long as they're within that 0 to 35 or 99 to 65%, you'll still get a full day funding on that. Okay. Any questions? This is where we take the time and say how important your check-in, check-out time is. Very important. 1 minute can mean the biggest difference between a full day funding or a half day funding. Same thing for half day and no funding at all. 1 minute can mean the biggest difference. You need, as an attendance clerk, you need to reach out to your DPP office and say, hey, I need the breakdown times for whole day, half day, and tardy, and no attendance. I always figured that for my attendance clerks. I had it on their screen, and so they would know, hey, we're at that 1 minute mark. Do I need to go ahead and check him out on this time or this time? Because, again, he's not walking out of the building till after that time, so I can probably get more funding because he's still in our building under our care. Okay, we at KDE, our team is here to give you more money. I should say all the money that we can give you. Okay, yes.
So the time that they write on the sign out sheet is not necessarily the time that needs to go in IC.
So on that is very,
I mean, if
whatever's
we're-
on that log is
Okay.
what has to go inside of Infinite Campus.
Okay,
They have to match.
okay.
That is why I always recommend you as the attendance clerk, write the student's name, write the student's time, let the parent sign. Because again, you can hopefully read your own handwriting, okay? We go into districts all the time that we cannot read their handwriting, or we see something different of what the clerk sees, and so that's a write-up, okay? So we know if you're writing that, you can say, oh, yes, that's my handwriting, it's this time, okay? That's why we always recommend, we know we're not going to require it. We always recommend, hey, you as the attendance clerk, sign the student's name, put the check-in, check-out time, hand it over, let the parent sign off. Okay, that's just always going to be our recommendation.
Do you calculate those percentages on the instructional time or the entire school day?
It is set by the standard day.
Okay.
Any other questions? So the next part we're going to talk about is student enrollment and your no-shows. We want to make sure that you are doing this correctly, but I want to back up and talk about the check-in, check-out. I had a couple of questions that were coming across during the break. Please keep in mind that you do have to have a log, either a handwritten log, or if you're using an electronic system, that can still be printed out and has all the following information. It's going to have the date. It's going to have the student's first name and last name, the grade level. Sometimes the reasoning is that's not required, but then the parent signature, because you still have to have a parent signature for elementary kids. Middle school and high school, you need to look at your board policies, because at the state level, we don't require it. But I will say a lot of your board policies are say, hey, you got to have a sign out for anyone leaving the grounds. So, but I will say Becky will cover all that in her session, but I just want to make sure the ones who are not going to be here for the second session, that I did cover that. So let's talk about student enrollment, no-shows. So what is a no-show? So it is a no-show is a student that was with you last school year. So for the 24-25 school year, they ended the year with you as an CO1. But they're not present on the first day of school for the 25-26 school year on the first day of school. That is a no-show. No matter what, which I'll give examples in just a minute, they are still going to be a no-show. So you're going to have to make sure that you click the start status as an NS no-show, the no-show checkbox, and then we'll go through all that in just a second. But the reason why this is a federal report that we have to pull I think we pull it in November and we send it on up to the feds. So this is part of that as well. So here's a couple examples that we're going to go through. If you have any questions about them, again, feel free to stop us. We will go through it and answer any questions that you may have. So a district receives records requests over summer break. Are we going to change last year, which is 24-25 school year? Are we going to change their end status? You're not going to change it because they were your student last year, okay? So over the summer, you got a records request. They're going to the next county over. You're going to go into the 25-26 school year. You're going to change their start status to an NS no-show. Check the no-show checkbox. The start date and end date is going to be the first day of school, okay? Start date and end date will be the first day of school. You are then going to give the appropriate end status. So if they're going to the next district over, W-22, okay? Because that's transfer within the Kentucky school. Or if they're leaving to go to homeschool, you're going to give it W-21, 20, homeschool is number 20. They all run together in my head. So you're going to make sure you're doing that. If you forget to check that no-show checkbox, when you click save, it's automatically going to check it for you. Okay, Infinite Campus has fixed that for us. Any questions on that one? Again, you're going to change it from a CO1 to an NS no-show. Yes. Right here in the middle.
Can we talk through that just a little bit more? The summer break, if they are, so we get a records request, we get notice that the student is leaving. I was not taught this way, so I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. I was deleting the 25-26 enrollment and going in and putting an end
You
comment.
never, ever, ever delete an enrollment.
Okay.
Okay. I need to make that very clear. Okay. And you're not the only one, so don't feel bad.
I'm sure of it.
You never delete an enrollment for the next school year. Okay. Because in our system, what we call a state edition, it is saying that they are with you in the at the end. So they should start with you in the beginning. Okay. So we're going to have to more likely to contact your district every year and say, hey, you need to fix this because they were started with you.
Okay. They
You
never
probably-
started the year.
Well, they should have, is what I'm saying. They should have started
Like
with you. You should have given an NS no-show because they did not start with you, but they should have been in your district.
Even if they're already enrolled somewhere else by our start date.
Yep. You should still be an NS no-show.
Here.
Right. Right. But in the
So will they
system,
have multiple
according to the
enrollment?
state edition, no, they don't have, because your NS no-show enrollment deletes that out.
So it'll
on our
end date.
side.
So if today, August 1st, I know show somebody, it's going to end date at August 1st with them and their new enrollment would
Correct.
start. Okay. That makes sense.
Yes. That's why the start date and end date's always the first day of school if they don't start with you. Yeah. So again, please make sure you never, I have one example that we will delete an enrollment. Okay. One example, which we'll go through that in just a second, but never, ever, ever delete anything in Infinite Campus as far as an enrollment. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. And you'll hear me say it 5 more times before we get through all this. Okay. Somebody else had a question. Yes.
Well, I was wanting to tag on to that. So we have a late school start date. So we have encountered that other school districts, when we have a student who's transferring out through the summer or even leading right up to our school year starting, they will contact us and say, well, we're showing an overlap because it looks like they're
Right.
still with you. So we can't end date them prior to our school start date.
Right.
So is there a way to prevent that overlap? What's the
So-
best case scenario there?
You'll leave it just as like it is. You're not going to do anything because our growth factor is going to pick all that information up. So that's why growth factor is another report that our office takes care of, which we'll kind of talk about that just a little later. But as long as before the second month ends, that is when we look to make sure there's no overlapping records. So you will show an overlap until you start school. When you start school is when they will fall off. Okay. They can contact you and say, hey, you need to wait till we start school. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Again, you get the records request over summer break, give them a no-show, start status, start date, end date is the first day of school, give the appropriate end status code. Okay. Yes, you will get calls probably 5,000 times until you start school if you're on the variable calendar, which means you start on August 25th or later. You will say, hey, we're getting an overlapping enrollment. You'll say, I know, because we've not started school yet. We've talked to KDE. KDE says it's fine. Okay. I promise it's going to be good because by the time we do growth factor is when we will clear all that up. Okay. All right. So no show. Student officially drops out over summer break. This is for your high school. Okay. The only time that the student can drop out. So we're not going to change last year's information because again, they ended the school year with you last year. You're going to give a no-show, enter the date, which is the first day of school on the start date and end date. You're going to give the W-25, and then it's optional for the dropout questionnaire. KDE no longer requires it. Some districts do still require it, and that's fine. You'll fill that information out there. Then you'll click save. Again, if you forget the no-show checkbox, it's automatically going to check it for you. Any questions on that one? Student moves to another school within the district. This is the only time that you are allowed to delete an enrollment. Okay. This actually needs to happen at the central office because you more likely do not have access to more than one school in your district. Okay. So when this happened in my district, I had 2 elementaries. They would say, hey, they're now on this boundary, so they need to be moved here. I would say, okay, I would go in, delete that elementary school and add the other one in. Okay. Because the reason why we can delete it is because they're still in our district. They're just moving to a different school inside the district. Okay. Do not use student locator because it's going to cause mass confusion on you and it's going to cause errors on you as well. Okay. So make sure if you have a student that's moved from one school in your district to another, contact central office and say, hey, this student is now coming to our school. Can you move their enrollment? It's a couple clicks and it's done. Okay. That's the only time you should delete an enrollment. Any questions on that one? Yes.
So we have our alternative high school, so I moved their enrollment. So that's, if I no-show them at the high school because we've moved them, then I can delete, I can delete their high school because they've moved to our alternative
Correct.
school, correct? Okay.
Because they are moving from one school to another school within the district. Mark?
Big district. So Long Branch Elementary, if Long Branch Elementary no-showed the kid and put, W-24, not knowing where they went, and then they show up at Ackerman Elementary School and they enroll them, that's okay. We don't have to delete that no-show, correct?
You don't have to. It's just making your data
Okay.
cleaner.
All right. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Yeah. No, it's up to you. Any other questions? All right. Student does not show up on the first day of school. Are we going to change the 24-25 enrollments? No, you're not going to touch them. So this is where we say you should not take attendance inside of Infinite Campus. But I will also say you can take attendance inside of Infinite Campus if you choose to. Okay. Some districts say, I don't want no teacher touching Infinite Campus until the second day of school. They want to go old school, do paper pencil. That's totally fine. We're not going to stop you. But you also can take attendance, but just don't run the attendance wizard, okay? Because again, if the student is not there on the first day of school, they're not absent. They are just a no-show. Their enrollment does not start until they walk through that door, okay? Same thing as if they're late to school on that first day of school. You're not going to count them tardy, okay? Because again, they're not there until they walk through the door. Okay, even though you may have already went in and done their no-show, you may have to stop and go back in and take it all out. Okay, so students do not show up on the first day of school. Leave the start date and end date out on the first day of school. You're going to give the EO1, change it to an NS no-show, and then more than likely you're going to give the appropriate code. So again, there's the W-22 if they moved out of, or W-29 if they moved out of state, they moved to another district, W-22. And if you don't know any information on them, it's a W-24. Okay. So if you give them a W-24 on the first day of school because they did not show up on the first day, but show up on the second day, which we'll talk about right now, you don't have to go in and delete that W-24. Okay, you can leave it in there because they're going to have a new enrollment to start and cancel out that W-24. Okay, so if the student does show up the next day, the next week, the next month, okay, if they've never been in school at all, you're going to start a new enrollment. are you going to delete that no-show enrollment? You're not going to delete that no-show enrollment because they should have been with you on the first day of school, but were absent. And so you'll start a new enrollment because it's now saying that Josh Whitlow should have started on 8/4, but he's really going to start on 8/6. Okay, so there's 2 days of school that he missed. That's a federal reporting that we have to send on up to the feds. Okay. So again, don't delete the no-show. You're going to go in, start a new enrollment. Again, that enrollment's going to be an EO1 because it's the first day they walked into the school. You're going to give the start date of when they walk through the building, and then you're going to start their courses back. Okay. Any questions at all on the no-show side? Yes.
But we can, if a family's been in communication with us and we know they're on vacation and they're going to do an EHO, we can go ahead and
So
do
if
that
it's going to be
instead
an
of
EHO, you don't do anything. So you're just going to mark it as a attendance code EHO.
EHO, and we don't have to
Yeah.
no-show them, and we're
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yes. State Fair EHO, you will not mark this kid as a no-show. They will have an attendance code as a SF State Fair or EHO. Rhonda, I think we have a question over here.
So thinking about no-shows and students who are whereabouts unknown, and then again, thinking about confirming where they are now at. For students who have returned to their country of origin, is there any plan in place right now for those students?
So
Because
if you
that's
have a
what
student
goes
that you
dropout
know that
rate.
has moved back to their country, you're going to use that W-29.
Without a verified enrollment, just W-29 it.
Yes,
Okay.
because you've done your part of looking for that kid. You went to the neighbor said, oh, they moved back home as in their country. And so that's your documentation. You would say, you can put in the end comments or the start comments and said, they moved back to so-and-so. Yes, we will accept that on that side. Same thing when you do lose a student during the school year. When I say lose a student, is they've moved out of your district to another district or out of state, or they've moved back home to their country. It's the same thing. You don't have to actually have that paperwork, especially for your migrant students. That's the students that I'm talking about. Because again, they may pack up in the middle of the night and move to another state or move back to their country, and you will never know. So as long as you're doing your part, you've talked to neighbors, you maybe talked to the ones that they were hired by, or you've talked to another family member that's within that family and they said, oh, they moved to another state or they moved to back to their country, you can use that W-29 because again, make sure you do keep that documentation because we will ask for that. But you may not receive any paperwork, especially if they move to another state. You may not receive any paperwork from that district saying, hey, we now have the student enrolled because again, especially migrant students, they're not going to understand that. So they're just going to do a new enrollment at that new district in the other state. Yes. Yep. So the question was foreign exchange. Yeah, so you will do, when they go back to their country, you'll CO1 them for last year, unless they are graduating, and then you still see them cannot graduate foreign exchange. So then you'll do a CO1 and then a no-show if they're not a senior from last year. Any other questions? All right, so Infinite Campus does have a no-show report inside of Infinite Campus, which is a great report. This is the report that I used every year when I was in the district and in charge of enrollments and attendance. So I would pull this report at the beginning of, once I know everything was in Infinite Campus. We were one of the districts that started early, but our surrounding counties did not start as early as we did. So I would not hound our districts until I knew everyone was in school. Once I knew my surrounding districts were in school, that is when I started looking for my students. Because I could call now and say, hey, where are you at? You're not in school. Well, I'm going to Taylor County. Teller County starts 2 weeks after we do. Or I can say, hey, Adair County, do you have this student? Well, they're not in there yet. But again, we haven't started school for 2 more weeks. And so I would not do anything with no-shows until I knew my surrounding counties were in school. Then I would start looking for those students because I can call 5,000 times a day. Well, we're going to this county or this county. But again, at the end of the day, they're not. They just didn't want to come to school. So then once I would go by this report of my no-shows, and then I would start contacting those parents or students to get them back in school, or we would start the paperwork of truancy already because they've already missed 2 weeks of school already. Any questions? All right, so now we're going to look at the student attendance reports. Again, this is what you will use as attendance clerks for if you do the 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, 6-day, however many day letters you do. This is what you should be sending to your parents as documentation. So the first one we're going to look at is the attendance profile report. This is Kentucky specific to us here in the state of Kentucky. So you can see, it's going to be hard to see, but you see the whole day, half day absent. Okay, that's where all that comes into play at. You see the check-in, check-out time, the attendance code, the date, and the attendance code status there. So this is what you would send to your parents as documentation saying, hey, you have 6 unexcused absences. You have 5 unexcused absences. Then once you go through your part at the school level, then you send it on up to the district level. Okay, then the DPP or Director of Student Services, they would then take it from there. Once they hit that number of unexcused absences, that's when they send a final notice. Okay, this is the same report that I would give the parents. I would highlight the 9 unexcused absences and say, here's the documentation, here's your final notice, I will see you in court. Okay, so this is their documentation that you have. This is the same documentation that I would take to the court as well for the judge. I would highlight the unexcused absences, unexcused tardies, because I want him to know that, hey, yes, not only he's absent, but he also has a bunch of unexcused tardies as well. So it just kind of helped me on my side of documentation for the judge. Also, at the very top of the attendance tab, you will see transfer documentation. Okay, so if you have a student that is moved to your district, the attendance comes with that student as well. So you can actually see the attendance from the previous district. Okay, if that student likes to hop around a lot, you're only going to see the previous district. Okay, now if he's moved 4 times within that year, again, you'll just see the last one that they're coming from. So this was another great report that I pulled too when I would go to court, because he may be in truancy trouble in another county. He moved to us. He's already in truancy trouble. I would pull my report, and I would also pull his previous district as well. So that kind of gave me more information and helped the judge make his decision. All right. So now we get into what I call behind the scenes stuff. I kind of gave you the behind the scenes, but this is really behind the scenes. So this is what we call the attendance table. This is a hidden table that is inside of Infinite Campus that you cannot see unless you do a magic trick, as Infinite Campus tells us. So you would have to, if you have a Windows computer, go to any student in your district right now. You may have to go to last year's because, again, nobody started school yet. So click on any student to go to the attendance table, or sorry, the attendance tab. And in this gray area right here, take your mouse and click 1 time. In the attendance tab, take your mouse and just click in this gray area. Once you do that, you're going to hold down Control Spacebar. If you have an Apple, I think it's Command Control Spacebar. So once you do that, you will see this report come up. If you look down that report, it's going to show every single day that that student is enrolled. Okay, this does say 7-3 because it's just our training site that we use. But all this information is very important on the attendance table. So what you see on the front end is just the green and red and sometimes yellow. This information is where we're getting into in our office to make sure that this is 1.0 at all times. If it's not 1.0, there's an issue with it, or we have reasoning why it's not a 1.0. Because a 1.0 means it's getting full attendance for that day. Okay. So I use this a lot, especially I'm over virtual performance space here at the department. So I use this all the time when I'm working with districts on virtual performance space. They'll say, I'm not getting enough time or something's wrong. I don't have somebody scheduled correctly. So if you look at this example, you see the first 3 days, they're only getting 0.57 of attendance. You look at that 4th day, they jump up to 0.86. Okay. So I can tell you right now, there's something wrong with the first 3 days of school. The reason why is the guidance counselor deleted a course instead of end dating a course. Okay. That's why we never delete anything. We end date. Okay. So we went from 0.57 to 0.86. She was saying my student is not getting the correct funding. I said, okay, let's go in there and look. So we look at this. I put it in the training site. I pulled their information into the training site and started looking at it. I said, well, your first 3 days, you're only getting 0.57. So you're missing a course somewhere. They're not going to hit 1.0 because they're only attending 6 courses a day. They don't have the 7th course. Student completely leaves and doesn't even come to school in the 7th course. So that's why they're only getting 0.86 for that student. But that's still a whole day funding for them. Okay. Also, you can click at the very bottom of that where it says check-in, check-out table. It will take you to the very bottom of that table and it looks at the check-in, check-out. That's where it comes into whole day, half day. So that's why we say that 1 minute means the biggest difference between a whole day funding and a half day funding. That's where it's going to populate at and come from, is the attendance. This is what we call the attendance table. Okay. Any questions at all? I will also say too, which we'll cover in just a second too, we may see a lot of this information wrong. This was happening last year because they were changing attendance so much last year, or they were changing schedules. Because again, right now, if I pull this report still, this student would be wrong because I need to run the attendance refresh, which you as attendance clerks do not have access to or should not have access to it, which we'll cover in just a second. Any questions on that report? It's a great tool for you as attendance clerks or central office staff. This is where you're going to make sure you're getting your correct funding. All right. So next thing we're going to go into is attendance groups. I will say with the new look, it did move. I'm not a fan of where they placed it, and I've let them know very much about it. At the point Eric Gordy says, we're not moving it, go away. And I still bring it up. So the attendance groups is where state attendance group is, or state programs is where attendance groups is. Used to, in the old look, it was just a tab under that student. Now you have to go to state programs, then attendance groups. So I'm still fighting to get it moved back to the attendance office side of it. So the one that we're going to be concerned about during this training is just the attendance group. The rest of it, that's a different office, doesn't touch our office, so we don't look at the rest of those. You at the central office may touch a lot of those, especially if you're an ESS or if you're a DPP and over the Frisky program. This is where they live, where I was talking about they have to put all that information in beginning of school. This is where they have to put their information in at. So the main one that we're going to look at, we don't use a lot of these in the state of Kentucky. Full day, half day kindergarten, we don't use that anymore as much because again, we are able to pay for full day kindergarten in the state of Kentucky right now. That changed, 2 years ago is when we started paying for full day kindergarten. So now we don't have to worry about that as much. The next one there is home hospital, which we'll get to in just a second. That non-contract, again, we don't have to worry about that because we have House Bill 563 where it came up open borders. So we no longer have to track that as well. The one, if you are on a border state or border the other states and you have students that come into your district from another state, you have to make sure that you're giving them the NCO, non-contract out of state, okay? Because we cannot pay for students that do not live in the state of Kentucky, even if their parents work for you, okay? We still cannot pay for those students. That is a state regulation that will not change. I can promise you that. Partial day, we'll talk about that. There's your QCE and QCP. If you were with us during COVID, everyone in the state of Kentucky loved us here at the Department of Education because we had to require that to be put in. We no longer use that. If you still track that, that's up to you, but we don't require it anymore. So the first one we're going to look at is the partial day attendance group. So keep in mind with the partial day, it's two different things. You hear us talk about partial day and partial week. So a partial day is an attendance group. A partial week is an attendance code. And the difference between them, a partial day is what the student is doing every single day. Josh Whitlow checks in to school at 9 o'clock and I stay the remainder of the day. Rhonda Devine checks out at 12 o'clock to go to therapy every single day. That is an attendance, or a partial day. A partial week is Josh Whitlow comes to school all day on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm absent every Tuesday. On Wednesday, I check out at 11 o'clock. On Thursday, I'm in school all day. And on Friday, I'm absent. I follow that schedule every single week. So that's a partial week. I don't follow the same exact thing every single day. So that's in a checkout code or an attendance code, okay? That's the difference between a partial day and a partial week. For you to use those, you have to have a student active IEP, okay? This is for special education students, and they have to have an active IEP to get credit for this. 504 students do not count for partial day or partial week for full funding, okay? We get a lot of questions about that, about students. I have a 504 student. They're saying in their program that they have to have partial week or a partial day. That is fine, but you're not going to receive funding for those students, okay? So when you go in to enter a partial day, you're going to give you have to do this every year. It does not roll over, okay? So you have to make sure you put this in every single year. So enrollment, which is where the student is enrolled at, you're going to give the partial day attendance group. The start date is when the IEP committee meets, when the ARC committee meets, ARC, however you call it. When they meet and say, hey, Josh Whitlow is going on partial day as of 8/31, okay? He is to be at school by 10 o'clock and he is to remain there the rest of the day, okay? That is a partial day, and that's how it should be also entered in the IEP. It cannot, we worked with our policy advisor in our Office of Finance and Operation and the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Both policy advisors says it has to be in the IEP. Conference summaries do not count, okay? So that is something that OSEAL is stressing to all their special education directors as well. When you click save, it's going to give you a nice little warning that says, please verify that the start and end times match the student's IEP. That is your KDE warning. Because when we do your attendance audit, which Becky will cover, we look at every single one of those. We're looking to make sure that it's in the IEP, that you have a board approval, and that it's in Infinite Campus correctly. Okay, if one of those three are not correct, that's a discrepancy. We're going to have you to correct it, fix it, and then when we come back to a follow-up, we'll want to see that corrected. Yes. You can still enter it as long as you get board approval. Yeah. Yeah. No, sorry, you're going to put the start date as the first day of school. Sorry, I had to stop and think about that. Yep. Yes. No, you'll leave it blank. Yes. So the question was, how does it look like in Infinite Campus as far as scheduling? You will just schedule for them for the time they're there. So if it's elementary, you don't have to worry about it because usually they're scheduled in homeroom all day long. Most elementaries sit that way. But if it's middle school or high school, you're just going to schedule them for the time they are there, because the next screen, this full funding checkbox, is going to give them the full funding. Okay, it's going to override whatever the attendance is saying on there and going to give them the full funding. Please, 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 if you go in and you're trying to click that full funding checkbox and this says inactive, you as a DPP, attendance clerk, whoever, do not change that to active. Only the special education director should change that and mark active, unless you are told by the special education director, change it to active. Okay, but they have to have an IEP in there, because more likely their IEP is not current or up to date, and so it's not going to mark that active automatically. Okay, if you do change that to active and that student does not have a real IEP, you are committing fraud. Okay, don't know if you've ever been through an IDEA audit, and if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're not fun. Okay, because you have to have every single piece of documentation for every single student for everything they do. Okay, I went through one before coming to the department. It was not fun. Okay, so this is something that they do look at, because again, they're funding from the feds to the state, and then from the state we fund you. Okay, so that's how all that works. So you do not want to mark active if it says inactive or blank. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get in any questions. Same thing for a partial week. That's going to be attendance code, which I didn't really go through all that because that's attendance code that you will put in every time. As far as check-in, check-out side of things, I always recommend districts to keep a separate form for those students, especially partial day. If it's a partial week, you can keep them on the same form, no big deal. Okay, but again, your check-in, check-out, just make sure you have some documentation of what time they're leaving and all that information. Again, if it's a partial week, you're going to have to follow the student's IEP of when they can leave. Okay, cannot leave a minute early, or they can leave a minute late, that's fine, but they can't leave a minute early because again, the IEP says it has to be 10:30. They can't check out at 10:25. You can check them out, but it's going to have to be two different checkouts. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about are some ad hocs that we have that we create here at the state level that we push down to you all in the district level. So the first one we're going to look at is the overlapping transportation records. We have two reports. We have three reports in transportation. We have overlapping, we have missing, and then we have audit end dates. So the first one we're going to look at is overlapping. Keep in mind, if you have students who have partial enrollment or I should say secondary enrollments and primary enrollments, you only want to keep a transportation record on the primary enrollment. Do not put a transportation record on the secondary enrollment. Okay, we only want them on the primary enrollments. Okay, and so that's what this is looking for, to make sure there's no overlapping T codes in Infinite Campus. Also, we cannot stress this enough to you all right now. Infinite Campus has created what they call Transportation 2.0. Do not touch it. Okay, I cannot stress that enough. Do not touch it. Don't even look at it, because right now it's not working for the state of Kentucky. Rhonda sent an email out to all DPPs a couple of weeks ago. We're going to send another one out to remind you, do not turn it on, because once you turn it on, you cannot turn it off. And we cannot guarantee you your funding's going to be correct, and we cannot correct it. Okay, this is how important it is that you do not touch it. So if you turn it on, there's no way for you to turn it off, and we now cannot fund you the correct way. Okay, our office is working right now with OET. I have a training or a testing that's coming up to make sure we can get everything done correctly. But as of right now, do not touch it. Okay, I'm begging you, because once you turn it on, there's no reversal, and we're not going to fund you correct. Okay. The next one is missing transportation records. So again, this is going to be under data export, state published folder, and then the audit missing transportation record. So just keep in mind too, there's 2 reports per report. So you have a district report and then you have a school report. No matter what report you run, if you're at the school level or district level, you're only going to see the students that you are connected to. So basically, if you have the primary calendar, you're only going to see your primary calendar. If you're at the high school, you're only going to see your high school. So don't think that you can click on the district and see what other schools are doing in your district. It's not going to show it for you. Okay. So again, this one is the missing transportation record. It's only going to look for students that do not have a transportation record during that school year. Okay. The next one is my favorite report. It's the end-dated transportation record. Again, this is going to look for students that do not have a transportation record for the current enrollment. Okay. This will pull, so let's say Josh Whitlow starts in Franklin County at the beginning of the school year. Fall break, I moved to Frankfort Independent School District. And by Christmas, I'm back in Franklin County. Okay. So it's not going to show on the missing transportation record because I already had a transportation record at the beginning of the school. But I will show up on the end-dated TCO record if they forget to start my TCO record back. Okay. This is also good for home hospital. If you have a student that goes on home hospital and comes back, because again, you cannot claim home hospital transportation while the student's on home hospital. Okay. Partial day, again, this is going to pull any student that has a partial day attendance group. Right below that, you will see audit PW attendance. That's partial week. So you want to make sure that everything is correct for these reports. Okay. These are all the same reports that Becky's going to be talking about as well, because this is the same reports that we pulled during the attendance audit. Okay. All right. So now we're going to look at some other reports. We're done with ad hoc. I will say if you are going to create an ad hoc, I always tell districts there's 5 things that you need to include in every single ad hoc. The first one is their SSID number. You always want to include the SSID field in every single ad hoc. Last name, first name, grade level. You always want to make sure all those are in every single ad hoc. And the last one is once school is in session, active today. Okay. If you're trying to pull ad hocs now, you want to say active year. Okay. But once school is starting and you say active today is true, it's only going to pull those students who have an active enrollment with you all right now. If you don't pull that, it's going to pull any student that's ever been enrolled in your district for that year. So for right now, we do want to pull active year because school has not started. Okay. All right. So here's some of the other reports that we're going to talk about to make sure your data is correct. Okay. These, as school is starting, for the first school month, I would recommend pulling every single report that I have already went over and that I'm going to go over every single week, okay? Because the first one we're going to talk about is schedule gaps, okay? You want to make sure a student has a full schedule at all times that they are enrolled in your district. Is there a case where they may not have a full schedule? The answer is yes, okay? But it's only going to be a handful of those students that do not have a full schedule. So I always recommend pulling it under schedule gap report. Again, it's just looking for any student that does not have a full schedule during the standard day, which goes back to the periods tab. Okay. The next one is my all-time favorite report, just because I deal with it the most, is the funding gap audit report. This is the report that only for middle school and high school if you have virtual performance-based students. This is the only report inside of Infinite Campus on the front end side that looks at virtual performance-based and attendance in-seat kids. So when you pull that report, it's going to show the student's name, virtual performance base percentage, attendance base percentage, and the dates. When you add in the virtual performance base percentage and the seat time percentage, that magic number is 93%. Okay. If you hit 93% or higher, you are getting the maximum funding. Okay. The reason why 93% is the magic number is because of lunch minutes. There's no district in the state of Kentucky that has the same amount of lunch minutes. Okay. If you don't hit that 93% or higher, that student has a gap somewhere or something's not correct on the periods tab, the length of the virtual performance-based course. Okay. So there's a couple things. We have a guidance document on this data standards page that talks about virtual performance-based attendance. So you want to make sure you look at that too. The next one there is a safe school report. Always recommend pulling this report. Again, this is going to look for your out of school suspensions to make sure your check-in, check-out times is correct. The next two reports is the overlapping report. I always recommend that you pull in the state enrollment overlap. Okay. This is where we were talking about earlier. Districts are reaching out to you because they're saying that they have an overlap because you have not started school yet. Okay. This is the report that they're pulling. This is also the report that we will pull during growth factor and SAR, because again, we cannot have an overlap more than how many days? 1 day. The reason why we allow 1 day of overlap is because one student can be in 2 districts on the same day. Okay. So let's say I start in Franklin County in the morning. I get in trouble. Mom and dad pulls me out of Franklin County, takes me across the road basically to Frankfort Independent. Okay. We're going to fund both districts because again, I was in the school in both schools on the same day. Okay. So that's why we allow 1 day of overlap. The overage, underage report, again, if you were with me last year, we now use the SAR record 9. Do not use the overage, underage report that's under edit reports because it does not work. Because again, underage, you have to be 5 on or before August 1st. The old report still has August 15th because that's what it was before we changed it. All right, so now we're into any questions at all about the reports. We're almost finished, I promise. Next thing we're going to look at is balancing the attendance months. So that's that second document that I sent you all in the email. It's the guidance document on how to balance, how to run those reports, and so forth. The first thing we're going to look at is that attendance refresh. If it's not correct, again, you as an attendance clerk should not have access to that. If you do have access to it, get with your DPP or your Infinite Campus coordinator and say, hey, I have access to this. I don't think I should. Okay. The only thing it's going to do is get you in trouble because you can shut down the whole system. Okay. So what this does, just give you a little background, what the refresh does, remember that hidden attendance table that we looked at, the control space bar? This tool goes through every single line and pushes an update to make sure it's the correct information. So it goes through every single student in your school every single day. Okay, so that is why it can shut down your whole entire school or district. Okay, you're the ones that have access to it. You should either run it before school starts or after school is out. Never run it during school hours. My experience, I shut down my whole entire district for 3 hours because I clicked on the wrong button, doing too many things at once. So, and if you do it and you call Infinite Campus, they cannot stop it. Okay, so you will be shut down until the refresh has completed. All right, so here's the second document that was in the email that I sent to you all. Monthly attendance reports, balancing your school months. All the contents there is what we've already went over, all those reports. Okay, so they're talking about understanding the ADA, ADM, how it runs. Yes. So when you run your attendance refresh is when you're trying to balance your school months, which we'll talk about. When you're balancing your attendance months and all your reports are clean that we just went through, all those are clean and you're still not balancing, run that attendance refresh and then it's going to shoot all the updates through. That's when you would use that. All right, so there it talks about how to run your ADM, run the register report, matching, and then the checklist, which is here. All of those 1 through 11 are all those reports that we just talked about. Okay, you want to make sure that you are running those every week as school is starting to make sure everything's cleaned up. When it's time to balance your school months, you want to make sure you run through those again before you start balancing your school months. Okay, because I promise you, if these are clean and you have no errors, you're more likely going to balance. Okay, unless you need to run that attendance refresh. Okay. So here's the ADM ADA report. This is Josh Whitlow's recommendation only. So when you pull the report, you're going to look at detail and funding mode. Okay. So the record type is detail. The ADA mode is funding. We're going to look at school month 1. We're going to state exclude our kids because we don't want funding for those kids. This down here at the bottom, sort options, that's up to you on how your report wants to pull out. I want mine by grade level because I always balance at the district level. You at the school level may want it by homeroom grade or by homeroom name. Okay, that's up to you on how you want that to look. Okay. Here is your ADM ADA report. This is what it looks like. This is the first page. It's going to be many pages because it's going to have every single student on there. So, but the very top is what we're looking at. Okay. So to read that across, the ATT stands for your attendance. This is for 20 days or the number of school days you had in the month. Okay. So for month 1, we're getting a positive 3,563.5 attendance for the 9th grade. ADA, average daily attendance. Your ADM is average daily membership. There's your percentage for the grade level. And then overall, there's your tardy, excused, unexcused. And then here's your attendance state codes. Excused, unexcused, AFR, AFD, your EHOs, basic training, ATA, excused doctor's note, excused parent notes, your suspensions, and then your others. So that's how that reads across. The next one is the register report. Keep in mind your ADM ADA report is your membership report, who you're responsible for membership. Okay. Your register report is your attendance report, butts in the seat. This does not include virtual performance-based kids. Your ADA ADM has your virtual performance-based kids. Register report does not. Okay. So again, this is Josh Whitlow running. This is the way I train. You want your display option as an absent %. Okay. That's the way I like to read the report. Generate the report. This is what comes up. Okay. It's going to have every single student. And if you count across here, there's 20 school days. Okay. There's 19 attendance days, but there's 20 school days. Okay. Because the first one there, 9-4, is a holiday, which counts part of the school months. Okay. This student here has an H for 9-4. If we look over 9-25, he took a field trip. He was present 19 days because, again, that's all that was in there. We're giving them an ADA of 1.0. So he gets 100% attendance for month 1. Second student, holiday EHO. He has excused doctor's note for 50% of the day. He was present 18.5. We're giving them 0.97 funding for that school month. That's how you read the report. Okay. Now it's time to balance your reports. You have to balance your ADM ADA report to the register report. Okay. So this is your register report. This is your ADM ADA report. I have it color coded for you in that document. So you're going to take the blue ADA 11542. I'm going to come over here for the 9th grade. On my truancy ADA, 115.42. I balance. Let's go to the next one. Green, my ADM, 123.29. Come over here in my ADM AD report, 123.29. I balance. Okay. Go to the end of the report. For my 9th grade, my attendance, which is P here, present attendance, 1615.50. 1615.50. So I balance for the school month. If you have virtual performance-based students that have a schedule all day long, you're not going to balance. Okay. You're only going to be off a whole number. Okay. There's no way you're going to balance if you have virtual performance based all day long. If they have virtual performance based half the day, seat time the other half the day, you're still going to balance. Okay. It's only when you have students that are virtual performance based all day long, they never walk into the building. Okay. Any questions?
What you described, Josh. So the difference should like what would cue us to know we have virtual performance?
So you should know exactly who's on virtual performance base. So when you balance and that says 123.29 and you come over here and it says 120.29, you should have 2 students that's on virtual performance base and you should account for them. It's always going to be a whole number. You're got errors. Yep. Yep. Yeah, you're always going to be off a whole number. So let's say we go to the junior class and that says 123.29 and that says 120.29. I'm missing 3 students. So I should be able to go through and pick out my 3 students on the ADM ADA report because it's going to show 0.00. Yes, sir. I'll have to look, but I'm pretty sure it is month 10. You have to keep for 10 years. I think it's in the pupil attendance manual at the very back of the document. Yep. Any other questions on balancing your school months? Any questions at all that I did not cover? No questions at all? We do have 3 field staff that cover the state of Kentucky. Rhonda and myself, we cover the whole state, but we do have 3 field staff, Eastern Kentucky, which is in the green. That's Sasha Reinhardt, who is in the back, who has been with us. The orange section is Central Kentucky. That's Becky Walsh, with I think she's gone to get ready for her training. And the blue area is Western Kentucky. That's Ruth Britt. So if you have any questions anytime throughout the school year, reach out to your field staff or you can contact Rhonda or myself. I will say field staff can get to them a little quicker than we can just because we're in meetings just about all day, every day anymore. There is my contact information. If you have any questions, I do ask that you email me instead of call me, just because this is my first of 4 trainings, but I'm in meetings when I'm not in training. So it's easier for you to email me, ask me your questions, and I will respond to you as quick as I can. But if not, give me a call, leave me a voicemail. If you don't leave me a voicemail, I will not return your call. I promise. Okay. On that yellow piece of paper that you were handed today, we do ask 3 questions for our training. Number 1 is, what's the best thing you learned today? This just helps us with our training, what we need to cover. We also have to report this back to some of our people here at the department after we complete trainings. So again, number 1, you don't have to write the questions, just answer them. Number 1, what's the best thing you learned today? Number 2, how will today's training change what you do in your workflow? And number 3, what do you wish I had covered? More than likely, you're going to say ad hoc. And the reason why I don't train on ad hoc is because we are not the owners of Infinite Campus, so we cannot train on their stuff. You would have to go to Infinite Campus to be trained on ad hoc. Only thing that we can do is train on the state ad hocs that we create here at the state level. Okay. So if you do put ad hoc, understand, but know that I will not ever be able to train on ad hoc. Okay. You do not have to use that yellow piece of paper. If you have the printed your own copy, you can just answer on there. In the front, I do have ELA certificates. You do get 4 hours of ELA today. So make sure that if you are required to have ELA training, that you come and get that. That's mostly for your administrators. If you're a DPP, assistant principal, principal, you are required to have ELA credits. So we do get 4 hours for today. And you'll get 4 hours this afternoon as well, if you stay for Becky's training. But if not, if you have any questions, I'll be here. Feel free to come up and ask me your questions. If not, I hope you have a great school year. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us at any time during the school year. Please do not be afraid to ask questions if you do not understand. We'd rather you ask those questions now or when you have trouble than to just guess and put something in and knowing it's wrong. We're going to have you change it. Okay. But again, I hope you have a great school year. Good luck.